My name's Claudia, and I'm Kevin's mother. Kevin is now 18 years old, and he's been coming to Lindamood-Bell for some period of time. I'm a doctor, and so I think I knew right from the very first day that something wasn't quite right. Everyone was telling us that there really wasn't much hope and that we needed to start preparing for a very low-functioning child.
He had been diagnosed as having more mental retardation and some features of autism. I thought that he had autism and was going to have learning challenges, but I did not ever believe he was mentally retarded. And the reason I didn't believe is because when you observed his behavior, he was creatively problem-solving without language.
Being given the label autism was also a relief. And my belief is that the label autism is not a bad label, because as I've come to learn, especially with our work with Lindamood-Bell, that it's not fixed, and that it's not unchangeable.
So I think he was about 4 or 5. And when he first came into this room, he was just in the corner taking a train, and it was going back and forth and back and forth, and he was sort of sitting with his face towards the wall. And we would be saying, "Kevin, Kevin, Kevin," and we could get no response. And so what did that tell me? That told me he had an idea he wanted to play with the train. He probably had motor planning challenges because all he could do with the train was move it back and forth. He couldn't move it down the track, so to speak. And he had auditory processing challenges because no matter how we tried to get his attention when he wasn't looking at us, we couldn't. I had his mom come up close to him so that we could use the train and his mother, and we had the train then get up in front of his mother's face so that he was looking at the train, but as he looked at the train, he looked through the train to his mother. And that was an aha moment, because in that moment they connected, and suddenly they could have a conversation, a nonverbal conversation about the train together. And before the session was out, he was playing back and forth, but the trains were coming together and colliding. He was looking up at one of us, and we were starting our conversation. Oh, that was a pivotal moment for me, of saying this kid has so much more in there. And his visual system is how he learns about his world. So we have to connect with him using what he's got.
In the public school, we did floor time. That was our primary thing we did with Kevin. But then we were concerned about his academic performance. And that's when Dr. Robinson recommended that we look at Lindamood-Bell.
I knew that we had to leave the standard paradigm and go to something that would fit his way of thinking. All of the concept imagery that Nancy Bell and Pat Lindamood was talking about resonated with me, and I found it to be probably the most effective educational tool that I have used for kids with autism in terms of helping us get over this comprehension wall.
And he was reading up a storm, but he couldn't really comprehend what he was reading.
He also was at a social emotional level where we knew that he was still having lots of trouble comprehending social intent.
The heart of a mother is much more hurt with a child like this when they don't have friends than any academic performance. And so imagine being part of conversations at school and not knowing what they're talking about. Well, you would go in a corner and be by yourself. So he started with Lindamood-Bell, and the most remarkable thing happened. And that was that Kevin started to be able to make friends. When we came to Lindamood-Bell, Kevin was in special ed classes that were for the most severely affected children.
I am taking geometry, English, history, and I'm on the track team.
He's getting ready to vote. Following the election, he is going to get a high school diploma. Autism is a comprehension deficit of the whole world. And what the visualizing, verbalizing program has done for Kevin is allow him to comprehend the world. I am a physician. I have a background in research in neurobiology, and it is my belief that this is the only program that I know of that addresses the cognitive needs of a child with autism.
My reading and writing are better now in school because of Lindamood-Bell.
Their future will be bright. And I expect that all my kids' future will be bright. And I expect that Kevin is absolutely going to find his niche.
Kevin's future is very different than what you would have predicted before we started at Lindamood-Bell.